afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Donington Park, where we're about to get some more Toyo Tyres 7 Race Series madness. I mean, action underway. It is the 310R Championship heading out onto the circuit, and after the 420Rs put on a stellar show earlier on in the day, we're expecting more of the same now from these slightly less powerful, but certainly no less exciting 310Rs. It was actually an even closer qualifying session earlier on today when Mark Roberts took the pole position by less than a tenth of a second, and so I'm certain that we're going to see some close quarters racing between a good group of cars at the front of the field. Andy McEwen and Piers Pry here to talk you through the race, which is 30 minutes long, and as we saw in the 420Rs, can be very tactical actually. Slightly smaller grid for the 310s though, so maybe we'll see a bit more separation, maybe a smaller group of drivers at the very front of the field. But like I said, given how close the field were, 11 of the 15 qualifiers were within a second of each other in qualifying. I think it's very likely they'll all be circulating right on top of each other. Pole position went the way of Mark Roberts then with a time of 1:45.745. That was 0.08 of a second quicker than Don Henshaw. David Yates then and Michael O'Reilly share the second row of the grid. Row 3 for John Styring and Caroline Everett. Then it is John Chiverell and Ben Winrow, former Seat racer and Renault Clio front runner as well. Ben Winrow now taking to Caterham action. Row 5, Stephen Clark and Scott Parker with Simon Sharrock and Rob Good on the 6th row. Row 7 for Colin Lachlan and Sam May with Aman Upal at the back of the grid. Now, in the 310R Championship, things are looking pretty tight. On the face of it, it looks good for David Baldwin. He arrives here at Donington Park with more points than anyone. However, each driver must drop their 3 lowest scores, and once that is done, it is actually Stephen Clark who has got the advantage. Stephen Clark just 2 points by my reckoning ahead of David Baldwin, who is then 22 points clear of Ben Winrow, who is a further 10 ahead of Caroline Everett and David Yates. But with 50 points available for a race win, 2 races to be competed in this weekend, that means that, well, all of those top 5 drivers, and in fact mathematically John Chiverell as well in 6th, could still get themselves into the hunt for the championship. So, Piers, we've got not only some more of that really close quarters racing that we saw in the 420Rs to look forward to, but some significant championship implications to it all as well.
All is to play for, and if, as you mentioned at the top of the show, if the 410s are anything to go by, this is going to be no less drama-filled.
Yes.
I had to think about the choice of words there. But no, it was a good race, wasn't it, in the 410s? And I'm hoping for the same in the 310s, because as you mentioned, slightly slower but no less action on circuit. If anything, slightly more slipstreaming and side-by-side action. We had 3, 4, 5 wide, I think it was at one point. And look at that grid of cars there, all with their distinctive liveries, all very close. And this, I was about to say this is as close as they'll get, but I'm not so sure.
No, I think they'll get closer, and they'll be going a lot more quickly as well when they next do. Just looking at the grid sheet, by the way, I don't see David Baldwin on the grid, so David perhaps is missing this round, and therefore these 2 races will become his drop scores. That further complicates the maths. We'll get into that a little bit later on, because for now they come 2 by 2 out of the final corner. 30 minutes are put onto the clock, and when those red lights on the right-hand side of the screen go out, which happens now, we'll be away and racing. A decent start made by Mark Roberts then from the inside of row 1. Remember, in the 420s, though, it was the driver who started 3rd who led at turn 1. This time around, that was David Yates, and he's done exactly the same thing. Breaks through from the inside of row number 2 to grab the early advantage.
Whoa.
Wide goes, I think that was Don Henshaw all over the grass, bounces his way back on again. But what a start that was from David Yates. Yet again, Piers, 3rd seems to be the place to be.
Yeah, pole is almost worthless in these championships, isn't it? I mean, it's nice to have pole and to be somewhere at the front of the field, but 3rd place, if you get a good start, seems to be the place to be. And we're side by side, further towards the bottom end of the top 10 down through the old hairpin on the first lap. Everyone making it through the first half of the lap fairly unscathed. Don't want to curse anyone, so hopefully they can make it all round the first lap.
Let's see what happens. Up through McLean's they go. Top 3 absolutely nose to tail then as they round the right-hander at McLean's corner and head towards Coppice up the inside line. I think they're slipped the number 85 to gain a place. That was Colin Lachlan coming from towards the back of the field and trying to make further progress. No separation at all though. Aman Upal there at the back of the field, still very much in the slipstream of the pack ahead that winds its way down the exhibition straight. Here comes another challenge, maybe a 3-wide challenge. No, sensibly Caroline Everett there backed out of that. We do have a lead change. Henshaw losing the lead. Lots of different lines being taken through the chicane. A bit of tripping over one another. I don't think there was any major contact there. there, Piers, but one car in particular was on completely the wrong line.
Yeah, I think someone went straight across the chicane there, but all managed to make it through somewhat unscathed. It's a great start for Everett in, I think she's at 3rd or 4th place from 6th on the grid. So again, showing that the starting grid is purely that only, and by the end of the first lap, you could be pretty much anywhere on the grid.
Indeed so. So round Goddard's, they will go then to complete the opening lap of the race, and very strange line taken out of the final corner there by the race leader. Now that I think is the 33 car, isn't it, of Mark Roberts. So Roberts was the one who made that move down the exhibition straight, but now here comes Yates back up the inside. No, not quite close enough as they turn through Redgate corner for the second time of asking. Side by side between a pair of orange cars further back, 77 and 63, 77 John Styring, 63 Scott Parker. And Scott Parker trying but failing there, I think. Sorry, Styring was trying but failing to make the move stick. Side by side for the lead, Yates challenging, but Roberts not being shaken out of first spot just yet.
Not quite being able to get the overlap down the Craner curves. You really do have to have an overlap in these cars into the old hairpin, because they're not braking that hard at all into there, so you'll have to make the move pretty much before the corner starts. But it looks like round the outside is trying Yates and McLean's, and it's got to cut past done. So the outside was the inside for Schwanz's, the outside then for McLean's, and the pass is done. And now Roberts is under pressure from Everett.
Yes, he is. Up through the right-hander at Coppice corner they go then. There's the number 62 car of Don Henschel. He started on the front row of the grid, came through 5th at the end of the opening lap, so he's got some work to do. As once again, defensive line. Well, actually, no, it's the outside going Roberts. Yates there peeking to the inside, couldn't quite get through. The 25 car making a move at the back of that group. That is the championship leader, Stephen Clark. And did he manage to make any progress? I think he might have gained a place there.
Yeah, it looked like Riley in the, is it O'Reilly in the black car? Clouted the curves pretty hard through the chicane, but carried on nonetheless. The number 15 going up the inside, Yates looking for a move up the lead, scared. Roberts off the racing line, but Roberts maintains the lead again, coming off the corners very narrow to try and break the slipstream as early as possible.
Towards Goddard's they go then. There were bonus points available in qualifying as well, by the way. 3 points for pole, 2 for second and 1 for third, but none of our championship front runners were scoring points in qualifying, so it is as tight as we said. 2 points we think in it at the top of the championship tree. Then down the back straight we go to, well, the pit straight I should say, into Redgate corner. Challenge up the inside from Everett for second place, and again the door rather rudely there slammed in his face by David Yates. Yates not wanting to give that position away. As close as they're running though, Piers, I will see this has been a more orderly start to the race maybe than we had in the 420 hours earlier on. There are fewer of them out there, therefore just staying in that lead group a little bit easier to do maybe. It's just taken a bit of the intensity out of these first 10 minutes.
Yeah, everyone playing it pretty safe, knowing that they've got a long way to go. This will be, you know, we've still got 25 minutes left to go. Everyone just trying to stay in the front group, and it is, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars are very much in the lead group, and once these guys start battling, guys and girls start battling, then the group behind will be well up there. It's 25, looks up the inside. Clark looking up the inside of Winrow, can't get it done this time. But again, just taking the start of the race easy. They all know they're in the right place, as we saw in the 410 race earlier. You only need to lead 1 lap.
Exactly, yes, and you don't really need to lead the whole of that final lap either, do you? It's all about being in front really into the final couple of corners. On this particular lap it is Roberts hanging on to the lead. Now, before it all really starts kicking off, which probably will now down at the Melbourne hairpin, if David Baldwin's not going to race this weekend, he's going to take 2 0-point scores. They will become dropped scores. It means that he is guaranteed to end the season on 652 points. Now, at the moment, Stephen Clark is on 568, so Stephen needs nearly a perfect weekend here in order to outscore Baldwin. It's going to be a really fascinating battle in the championship. I said it'd all kick off. They're 3 wide into the final corner, but somehow, Piers, it's still Roberts with the advantage.
Yeah, and the number 124 of Winrow on the outside locking up, and we could see 2 cars on his inside, and we're 2 wide again in the second group. Completely line astern going down the start-finish straight. Ducks back in at the back of the field. We're going 3 wide again at turn 1, are we? Not quite. It was just a defensive move from Yates, but around the outside, Everett goes at turn 1, can't get it done. That's going to leave her vulnerable.
Yeah, let's see what happens then. Down through Hollywood, Everett on the outside line, and yeah, Caroline is in 4th position, but might that now become 5th place? No, she manages to hang on to that 4th spot as they drop down through the old hairpin. It is Clark right behind. But yeah, really interesting championship situation this, where Stephen Clark is essentially fighting someone who's not even here for the championship. Clark at the moment 5th, but really could do with a bit more than that.
Well, he could, but we saw in the first race in the 410s that 5th place for the first half of the race wasn't a bad place to be, because by the end you could be well up inside the lead, and it still is the top. What's that? I mean, 3 seconds takes you down to 8th place, so it could be anyone's race so far. But it looks like the front three are ever so slightly breaking away for now. Roberts at the front of the field has been pretty comfortable there, has lost to position a couple of times, but made his way back up to the front as we're now going side by side in through the Fogarty S's. That's a good move. Yeah, that was a good move. Lots of curb taken. I think that was Clark actually clearing Everett as they went through the chicane. Here comes a challenge for the race lead. Then Yates up the inside. Roberts sort of moving over in the braking zone, but then outbrakes himself, goes way too wide, and after all that defensive driving makes in the end David Yates's job that little bit easier. Through goes Yates into the lead. Winrow now pulling up alongside, albeit on the outside line into Goddard, snatches a break, and he go right round the outside, though he might have the momentum if Roberts leaves in the space, which he does, and so Ben Winrow up into second place, and immediately tries to challenge for the lead, gets a good run off the final turn, pulls to the outside line, and will he now try and go around the outside for the second corner in succession? No, ducks back in behind, so it's Yates who wins, Winrow second, Roberts third, and already bits of Caterham littering the side of the road. I fear that is the first but might not be the last piece of Caterham bodywork that ends up on the circuit in this 7-race series final race. There's another piece already on the inside of the credit curve, so it wasn't even the first piece. No, that's in a bit of a dangerous position actually, because they do ride that curve going through the left-hander at the Craners. So that's an extra little obstacle to be dodged by the drivers as they battle out on track. And look at this battle now for the lead. Ben Winrow to the front this time as he gets that inside line through McLean's corner. Yates on the outside. He's been racing Caterhams for a number of years now. Slots back in line in second position. Third place then is not Roberts anymore, is it? That's Henshaw into third. Roberts actually busy battling with Clark for fourth. So that number 33 car, you can see why he was fighting so hard for the race lead, because now he's slipping back into the pack. He's starting to really struggle onto the grass goes Don Henshaw. That was a gap that was never going to stay there. I thought he was going to keep his foot in and try and go around the outside. Of course, that would not have been within the motorsport regulations on track limits, but hey, he gave it a go anyway and slotted back in, but is now well within the fight to try and get second place if the number 15 of Yates can't get through for the lead. Well, I said it was an orderly start to the race. I think it's certainly not orderly now that we're moving into the mid part of the race. 21.25 minutes to go, and well, back up the hill they will come then with Ben Winrow with the advantage. Yates in second place. Who's going to get third? That's Henshaw on the inside, who was on the grass a couple of corners ago, and now manages to get back into third place. Clark, I think, was the man on the outside line. The car, by the way, that shed that bodywork down at turn 1, that's Rob Good, who's missing, I think, the front nose end or nose section of his car. That's lying well off the racing line, should be okay as a big lunge comes up the inside, and now that's a new driver joining the party, the number 13 of Michael O'Reilly. O'Reilly getting stuck in straight away, couldn't quite get far enough alongside to effect a pass through the exit of Redgate, but still a good opportunity, showing intent. But yeah, that was and the race leader clipped that bodywork that was on the inside of the Craner curves. No damage done, but those bodywork or front nose sections, you could definitely drive without them, but you'll probably lose a little bit of straight line speed, although maybe potentially some aided cooling. Yeah, that's true, and you run so close together in this kind of racing, I suppose that is a slight concern. Up towards McLean's we go then, Winrow trying his best to take control of the race now. We saw this from Jay McCormack, didn't we, our eventual winner in the 420R race earlier on. He kind of established himself out in front a bit later in the race than this, but was able to lead much of the final third. Can Ben Winrow do the same now in the 310Rs? Out of Coppice Corner they go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, I think, in a line, and immediately the challenge comes from Yates to the outside. To the inside goes Don Henshaw again. This time he stays within track limits, but again didn't quite have the momentum, and somehow Winrow stays ahead. I expected him to lose the lead there. Yeah, it was a good run from Yates down the back exhibition straight. Not having to defend now, and now Yates is defending, so this could allow a bit of breathing space for Winrow at the front of the field. Winrow trying to hang on, Yates there a bit sideways over the curve. In fairness, he was being helped through the corner by Don Henshaw as well, I think. Oh, and someone's slowing from that lead group, I think. Was that Henshaw? I think that's Don Henshaw, number 62, who just peeled off to the right and slowed down. Is he limping into the pit lane? Let's see. There was definitely someone going slowly. Yeah, there in the background. I think that's the 62 car. Oh, that's a real unfortunate turn of events for them, because they were running right up in the front group, and we're still fighting on, though. The rest of them aren't too worried about that. It's still, I mean, what is it? 4 seconds takes you down to 11th place. That's less than 2.5 tenths per car or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'll take your word for it on that. Maths never was my strongest subject, but it's close, that much I can tell you, and there aren't many formulas that can produce this sort of racing on a race-by-race basis. Don Henshaw's retirement has just split this lead pack slightly into two groups now. You've got the top 5, then a bit of a gap back, I think, to the number 8 of Simon Sharrock, who runs in 6th place, having started 11th. Here there comes Yates again. David Yates looking to the outside. That doesn't work. Then he might have left the door open almost for Clark behind. Stephen Clark picking his way through nicely here, isn't he? Having started 8th. I'll say that he almost loses a place heading up the hill, but he's into the top 3 now, and that's much more like it by my maths. A couple of top 5 finishes this weekend should be enough for him to grab the title, but it could so easily, what could be a top 3 could very easily become an 8th or 9th place finish just because of how close together they are.
Oh, squeezing. Yates is squeezing, and managed to get the move done before the corner, which is the critical thing, and that's because he managed to overtake on the outside. He should have a good exit through the Fogarty S's and might not have to defend into the Melbourne Loop if we cut to that in just a moment. But there's further fight. No, he does have to defend, and also trying around the outside is Clark. Can he get the move done around the outside? It's going to be hard to do that around the Melbourne Loop. It's a very sharp corner. No, slotting back in, but we're still fighting for the lead. Yeah, jinking left, jinking right.
Oh, yeah, went round the outside there, Clark. That got him the inside for the Melbourne hairpin. And is he going to go through? I think he might even get the race lead because Winrow runs out wide. And that almost allows Stephen Clark, the championship leader, to get through. But now he's the Lone Ranger. He's got no slipstream on the outside line. Well, then again, that all changes. David Yates goes to the outside of him. They're 3 wide into Redgate corner. Yates back up to 2nd, perhaps. He's even trying to challenge for the race lead. Winrow hangs on to the advantage. Yates into 2nd place, and Clark tenaciously hanging on to his inside.
Yeah, I don't know whether Winrow ran wide at the last corner because he made a mistake, or whether he saw the car from 3rd place coming careering in and just gave a little bit of extra room to try and avoid any contact.
It's a possibility, I suppose. Those two very similar liveries, aren't they, Winrow and Clark? So I do wonder whether maybe there's a little bit of teamwork going on. We'll try and figure that out. But as they head up through Coppice Corner once again, it is Winrow who's hanging on to the lead of the race for now. Head through McLean's up towards Coppice Corner. Winrow still has that number 15 car filling his mirrors. There is the points leader in 3rd, the number 25 machine of Clark. Under pressure though as they come out onto the exhibition straight. Once again, that slipstream takes effect. Winrow weaving around, doesn't really know which way to go. He opts in the end for the inside line, forces Yates to go the long way round. Is Yates late enough on the brakes? Yes, nicely done. And Winrow, I think, clipping the tyre stack there. So he really was using every bit of road available. Yates didn't leave him a lot of space.
Yeah, if he didn't clip the tyre stack, he hit the curb on the inside very, very hard. There are some small sleeping policemen on the apexes of both those sides, but then going straight back up the inside to grab 2nd place once again after nearly losing 3rd.
Yep, up the hill again. Let's see what's going to happen. Yates with the advantage. Winrow on the outside line. So he did clip the tyres. It didn't do any damage, seemingly. Still in the fight. Can't quite get the lead back away, though, as they round the left-hander. Nearly half race distance now. 15.5 minutes to go. And it is David Yates who leads the way. But Ben Winrow sees a gap up the inside. I mean, it wasn't really a gap, but he made the gap. And he's going to get the inside line into Redgate corner. Really gave Yates no option there but to move aside. Otherwise, there was going to be a bit of wheel banging.
That's a great move from Winrow, using all of the road that is available. I think that was on the limit of track limits, but it was very, very well done, and it was also good from Yates to give him room.
Yeah, it was. Just about left him space. Down the hill they go then. Winrow with the advantage. Tries to slide into the old hairpin ahead, so Winrow, again, showing that he really doesn't want to be shaken out of the lead because it's so easy then to get sort of sucked back into the rest of the pack. That's Rob Good. We noticed that he'd lost his nose cone earlier on, and well, sweeping round the outside goes Stephen Clark. Yates, I thought, was about to go to the lead, but actually he'd lost momentum up the hill, and the 25 car moves into 2nd place.
Clark's got some good momentum at this stage of the race. Got a good run out of the old hairpin, ran around the outside of Schwanson and into the inside of McLean's, and now he's trying for the lead. I think he could get a full overlap by the time we get to Fogarty. Could go from 3rd to 1st in about 3 or 4 corners. Looks like he's going to. What a great lap.
Wow, brilliant. Yeah, look at that slipstream that he got down the back straight. Good exit from Coppice helped his cause, and he does now slip through into the race lead. So Stephen Clark from 9th on the grid, proving that qualifying really doesn't even tell half the story, does it, in 7 Series racing. Down into the hairpin we go then. Number 25 to the front. Winrow 2nd, 3rd Yates. 4th position I think is Roberts, still ahead of O'Reilly. They climb the hill towards Goddard, so we haven't had Clark in the lead yet. Let's see whether or not he can now take some control of the race. He's leading, about to lead his first lap of the race. Ben Winrow led a number of laps before him. Yates has had a stint out in front, but now it's the number 25 car that leads the cavalry across the line. I think I said this was an 8-car group earlier on. I think we're up to about 12 or 13 now. But for the first time in a while, not side by side for the lead into Redgate.
Not for the lead, but further down the field we're looking side by side. But no, it's a great lap from Clark to go from third to first. A really good driving, and he's now under pressure once again from Winrow. He's going to have to defend probably into McLean's.
Yep, down through the old hairpin. They'll stay single file here and focus on carrying the speed up the hill through Starkey's response and maybe making that move into McLean's. I feel like I'm seeing more overtaking at McLean's in this race than in the 420Rs, and that I think is just because these cars are a little bit less powerful. That slipstream has more of an effect, and that's exactly what happens again. Look, Ben Winrow got the toe on the way up towards McLean's, and that therefore changes those tactics when we get to the final lap of the race, because there are more opportunities to draft past people in the 310Rs, seemingly, than there were in the 420Rs, so the drivers might have to just deploy some slightly different tactics when we get down to the last lap or so.
Yeah, it seems in this sort of second half of the race that the driver in second place can completely tow past the other drivers down, for example, from Old Hairpin up to McLean's and also into the Fogarty S's here. So you probably don't want to be leading going through McLean's, is my bet.
Yeah, I tend to agree, unless, of course, they all start falling over each other for second place on the last lap, which nearly happened that time. It's Winrow who's got the advantage, dropping down into the Melbourne hairpin this time. Yates second, third for Clark. Yates with a good exit, but doesn't really want to go to the outside here if he can help. Oh wait, that's Winrow!
Oh,
that's
no!
Winrow slowing from the lead. Now, was that just a missed gear, or was that the start of something slightly more sinister? Let's see whether or not he's able to get back up to speed. Here he comes. I know he's still crawling, Piers.
I think that looks pretty terminal. Yeah, he's crawling round to the pits. That is just disappointing for Winrow. Nothing he could have done about that. Hopefully we'll find out what's gone on there, but the fight still goes on. It's now Clark trying around the outside of Yates.
Yes, it is. That was exactly the same part of the circuit where Don Henshaw slowed as well, so it almost makes me think drive shaft or something like that, accelerating out of the Melbourne hairpin. That will punish the drive shaft. On the grass goes Stephen Clark. This is risky for the championship contender, but he wants to try and get as many points out of this first race of the weekend as possible, because you never know what might happen in race number 2. Down through the old hairpin he goes, and Ben Winrow is furious.
Yeah, you can see the emotion there. He's clearly made a mistake. Potentially it's either drive shaft, as you mentioned, or clutch, or I'm not sure, but that is absolutely devastating. You could see the emotion. He was loving that race and wanted and fancied a good result and banging the steering wheel in disgust, but hopefully he'll be again out in the next race this weekend.
Well, he was still a championship contender as well, remember. He was third in the points coming into the weekend. A couple of race wins or podiums could have been enough to net him the title. And now, unfortunately, well, this will go down as a 0 score, so he'll count it as one of his drops. The trouble is he'd already had 3 zeros early on in the season, so that's his championship hopes gone.
Pretty much gone, and we're still side by side for the lead, slotting in. Whoa, completely overlapping. A great cutback, but actually the person who's going to make the most advantage there is the 33 of Roberts, who's now gone from second and looking for the lead already. Has he got an overlap into the Melbourne hairpin? Not quite. Or has he?
Thinking about it, thinks better of it, thankfully, because he was a bit too far back, I think, and somehow I think David Yates might come out of this still with the advantage. Around the outside goes Stephen Clark, though. That buys him a ticket to the inside at Goddard's, but he didn't have the overlap, didn't have the momentum up the hill, and so Yates manages to hang on. We're about to start the final third of the race. Where have the last 20 minutes gone? We're into the last 10 already, and still any one of about 8 or 9 drivers could fill out the podium places. Yates and Clark looking like maybe the 2 strongest right now. They're in positions 1 and 2. It's side by side behind them as well, as steaming up the inside comes the number 13 of Michael O'Reilly, and he's now up into 4th place.
Yeah, that's the highest O'Reilly's been, I think, in this race. He sort of forced his way into the top 5, and we've still got a 3-way fight for the lead. Clark looking to the right now.
Oh, blimey, banging wheels. Sorry, Piers, that was a
no, puncture.
Race. Is it? Let's have a look.
Is that a puncture, or is that just the wheel arch rubbing? Oh, sorry to panic anyone who's watching at home. I think it's just the wheel arch rubbing. Yes, it is. The wheel arch has been dislodged. I thought there was a puncture, but that's slowing him down, or is it just the toe once again allowing Clark to get alongside and probably ahead by the time we get to McLean's? He has.
Well, the car did snap sideways when he leant on that right rear, so I don't know if it's knocked the toe out maybe slightly in the back of the car. It was a big hit, wasn't it, for David Yates?
You can see it rubbing on the wheel arch, so that'll definitely not be helping straight line speed as he's now looking vulnerable into Coppice. Doesn't get the move done. A big handful of opposite lock for Yates, sorry. It's Clark's now in the lead. And we're going to be slipstreaming. It looks like the straight line speed is slightly hampered of Yates there.
Yeah, here comes Shiverall as well. I haven't mentioned John Shiverall yet, but he's about to break into third place. Is he on the inside of Yates, who tries to close the door? They almost bang wheels again, and it's a frustrated David Yates now, I think, who sees maybe his chances of a race victory evaporating. Up the inside comes the number 9 of Caroline Everett. Haven't mentioned her for a while either, and she's back at the races again as well. Down into the Melbourne hairpin they go. Clark leads the way. He was, I think, the one who got into the right rear corner of Yates in the first place, heading through the crater curves. Not a good place to be making contact. To be quite honest, they're both still in the race.
Yeah, that's about the worst place you want to make contact anywhere on the circuit, or maybe even the calendar, because it's such a high-speed, unloaded corner as well, so the car is right on the edge of adhesion, especially in these caterhams. I don't know if it's flat out, but pretty near if it isn't.
Problems there, I think, for Shiverall. He was kind of shaking his head and lost 2 places down the pit straight, so I think he maybe had a bit of an issue, maybe couldn't quite get the car into the next gear. But seems to have picked up speed again now. Drops down into, I think, 6th spot. The top 2 breaking away. What have you spotted, Piers?
It's someone, one of the green and yellow, green and blue cars. It's either the 8 or the 9 seems to have their bonnet seems a little bit loose. Hopefully there's just a bit of flapping going on and not anything more sinister than that. But the battle for the lead is hotting up once again. They've managed to break free thanks to that issue for Yates, I think. And if they work together, if they work together, that might be a battle for the 2 of them. But yes. This is all, with a crazy few laps, settled down for just a few corners, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but if those 2 work together at the front of the field, I don't see a way that the rest of them, unless they work together, are going to catch them. But with Yates in 3rd, he's clearly wounded. That car clearly isn't going as quickly as it was earlier on. Look, he's under pressure now as they head down the back straight. That's not Shiverall, is it? That's O'Reilly to the outside of him now in the number 13. Sweeps through into 3rd position, but as long as this lot are battling for 3rd, the top 2 can start to break away. But you can see Clark, the race leader, weaving down the back straight, still trying to break that toe. He's almost succeeding in doing so, though. He's pulled a bit of a gap now over Roberts in 2nd. 3rd place, O'Reilly. Shiverall steams up the inside of, I think that was Caroline Everett, into the Melbourne hairpin and regains one of the places that he lost. Coming past the pits, there was contact there. That was Everett, I think, into the back of him. They're both still there, but there's a lot of nose-to-tail contact in this race.
Was that wheel-to-wheel contact? It looked like maybe as they were just trying to slot in behind it, sort of the wheels got tangled together. Looks like both are still carrying on, but potentially, as you mentioned, a little bit of toe damage which could affect the way they handle, or maybe even the straight line speed. But we'll assess that as we go along. But the racing is so close. The only contact we've had between the drivers has just been, you know, touches here and there. It's been nothing too untoward.
No, nothing malicious, and they're not being punted off the road, are they? It's just so difficult, like I said in the 420 race, so difficult to race this close together at these speeds without occasionally making a little bit of contact. Now, you've just spotted there, Piers, fastest lap of the race for Michael O'Reilly in 3rd position. He started this lap about 9/10 adrift. Roberts in 2nd place. Roberts is on the grass heading up towards Schwann's curve there as he closed in on Clark, but O'Reilly could well drag himself back into contention before the end.
Yeah, clouts the curb, Roberts, through McLean's there, using all of the road. It's not the fastest way, but it still hasn't hurt his lap time too much. But you're very much right. O'Reilly closing onto the back of that front group, because I think, and we can see that Clark is aware of how strong the slipstream is, weaving from left to right last time and doing exactly the same again, one side to the other. But to be honest, mate, I don't think it's doing a huge amount, because he's going to follow you no matter where you go.
Oh, 3 wide behind. Here comes up the inside Everett to the outside Shiverall, and still David Yates hanging on the middle ground there. He's still in that 4th position. The bodywork doesn't seem to be rubbing as much now, but he's going no quicker, which does sort of lead me to believe that maybe there's a bit of damage to the right rear suspension that's just slowing him down slightly. Not able to keep pace with the cars that are getting past him, and definitely a queue forming behind him. Up the hill we go then, towards the last turn. There will be just under 5 minutes to go at the end of this lap. The leaders absolutely nose to tail, but the gap we need to watch for here, Piers, is the one from 2nd to 3rd.
Yep, 2nd to 3rd is the one we're watching, because it's going to close down once again. The front 2 we know are going to be close. 1 second, so then the difference between 1.5 to the lead for O'Reilly. That means it's 1.1 to 2nd place, just on the cusp of the toe, I would recommend. So the front 2 need to not fight it out, because otherwise O'Reilly's very much going to be in the hunt.
Yes, but the thing is, we're going into the final few minutes now. They're almost certainly going to fight it out, aren't they? O'Reilly was quicker than the leader that time by a couple of tenths, but actually slower than Roberts, who sets a new fastest lap. That is worth a championship point, bear in mind. So Roberts then with the new fastest lap, just because he was getting that brilliant slipstream. He was kind of the perfect distance back, wasn't he, from the Stephen Clark car to get the toe without actually catching him and tripping over him through the final few corners. Up through McLean's they go then. Now when it's a straight fight like this, just the two of them, you'd imagine being in second place is the place to be, but I still think that O'Reilly's going to get there by the end, and that will just complicate matters a bit.
Yeah, O'Reilly's sitting there just pushing as hard as he can. Let's look at the first sector. Closed the gap by 2/10 once again, so just eking away at that gap, and now just within the toe, I reckon, because that gap behind, and the gap behind is extended, so there's for 4th, 5th and 6th is now pretty much going to be that fight. So it's 1, 2, 3 and then 4, 5, 6 backwards, I think.
Caroline Everett there trying to go around the outside of David Yates, who's well used to defending into the chicane. He does it every lap. The back of Everett's car is a mess as well, so she's had a bit of a hit from somebody, I think, as they fan out under braking into the Melbourne hairpin. Shiverel, the 71 car, fending off the number 8 of Simon Sharrock. And then they've also got the number 77, I think, of John Styring in that group as well. These are all fighting over 4th place on back. It's the top 3 who are going to settle this, I think. But yet again, Stephen Clark builds a bit of a margin over Mark Roberts as they come out of the final turn. He does a 46.5, a 46.7 for Roberts. But look at O'Reilly. He's quicker than both cars ahead.
Yeah, he is now definitely within the toe. It's now 6/10 between 1st and 2nd, 6/10 between 2nd and 3rd. 1.2 cover the top 3, so very much a 3-way fight, but their battle for 4th place is still raging on further back.
Yes, it is. Down the hill we go then, top 2. Quite absolutely nose to tail. Look at Clark wandering all over the track as he gets onto the brakes into the old hairpin. You'd have thought would have slowed him down through the corner, but he didn't seem to lose a huge amount of momentum up the hill. The slipstream, though, now just starts to bring Roberts back onto his tail, bringing with him O'Reilly in 3rd. It's all going to build to a crescendo, this, I think, on the final lap of the race. The next lap will be the final lap of the race, so a lap and a half to go, and nose to tail it very much is now between the top 2. But in the final sector, that's where Clark has looked strong. Strong enough, do you think, though, to fend them off on the last lap?
I don't know. Maybe Roberts has been holding something in reserve, knowing that he's going to have to use everything he's got to get past in the last couple of laps. He doesn't want to show his hand too early, so hopefully he can catch Clark slightly unawares.
I think he lifted there, Roberts, because he was closing and then suddenly dropped back a length, I think, as they hit the brakes. So I think you might be right. He's keeping his powder dry, waiting for the last lap. Everett has got past Yates, meanwhile, for 4th position, but now Yates tries to go back to the outside. Shiverel looking up the inside. They're all going to meet in the middle, and we'll figure out in a moment which way that ended up. There's a damaged car, look, about to go a lap down, but it pulls well out of the way. Really good driving there from, I think, the number 36 car that is, isn't it, Rob Good, who lost that bodywork earlier on, and allows the lead battle now to continue unabated. Out of the final turn they go. Cards on the table, everyone. What have you got? One more time around the 2.5 mile Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, and it's Stephen Clark with an advantage, and that's Shiverel.
Oh.
That's Shiverel off the road.
And he's got someone else's mudguard underneath his.
Yeah, now he was battling with Caroline Everett, but I don't think it's Everett's mudguard. I think it might be...
Yeah, it's a blue mudguard.
Yeah.
So is that yes, it's the right rear mudguard of... Did you catch the number of the...
that was Yates. That was Yates. So he's had contact on both sides now at the back of the car, I think. If I know, that was the one that was rubbing. So, well, done him a favour, actually. Knocks that bit of bodywork loose. Right, leaders down at the old hairpin. What a great old hairpin that was from Stephen Clark. And he has now pulled a good little margin over the 2 cars behind.
I don't think he's quite out of the woods yet. This is, I'd say, the perfect gap for Roberts to be in. He wants to be about 3 or 4 tenths behind so we can get a proper slingshot down the exhibition straight out of this corner. The exit through here is going to be critical for Roberts. Can he get a good exit? He's gone in well. He's made the apex. Can he get past before the Fogarty S's? That's going to be his main opportunity. He's a little further back than he probably wants to be.
Yeah, needs to get a good run through the chicane, I think, doesn't he? I don't think there'll be an overlap into the braking zone. No lifting this time, definitely. Clark weaving around, knows how important these 50 championship points could be if he can hang on to the victory. Clobbers the curb, comes off the chicane reasonably well, though, and I'm not convinced that Roberts is going to be close enough. Down to the Melbourne hairpin. We might not even see Stephen Clark defend until the very last second. Late on the brakes from Roberts. Did he get up the inside? We wait with bated breath. No, it is still Stephen Clark out in front, and with only one more corner to go, I think he might have done enough here. It was that run out of the old hairpin and up through McLean's that really has won him this race. It looks as though Roberts will hang on to second. He's a bit wide. Oh, they're avoiding some bodywork from that collision involving Shiverel on the previous lap. But what a masterful drive that was from Stephen Clark, who wins the first race of the weekend in the Toyo Tyres 7 Race Series 310R Championship. Second place goes the way of Mark Roberts. Third in the end for Michael O'Reilly. And in 4th position, it's going to be be the number 9 of Caroline Everett. 5th position then for the number 15 of David Yates, who sort of limped along there with that little bit of damage that he picked up earlier on in the race, with the rest of them funneling in behind. Another brilliant race, but ultimately Stephen Clark proving there really how he is the championship leader. He will claim then 50 championship points. The 2 nearest drivers to him in the championship won't score anything, so that means well, let's see if we can very quickly work that out. Baldwin, know, is likely to end the championship on 652 points. That now puts Stephen Clark on 618. He is 34 points back. So really, as long as he finishes the second race tomorrow, he should score enough points to take the title. That was a really important race win, that. Perhaps the most important of Stephen Clark's, I think now 4 victories that he's had this season. So Clark wins with a really, really well-managed race there. Second place goes the way of Mark Roberts. Third for Michael O'Reilly, and in 4th place Caroline Everett. 5th place then was David Yates. 6th position for Simon Sharrock, while 7th place went the way of John Starring. 8th place then for number 63 Scott Parker. 9th was the number 3 of Sam May, and the top 10 completed by Colin Loughlin. Then it was John Shiverell after his collision, we think, with possibly David Yates in the final corner with a lap and a bit to go. 12th position went to our man Upal. 1 lap down after early damage was Rob Good, whilst we lost Ben Winrow to the pit lane with mechanical issues, and so too Don Henschel. But for Winrow in particular, that is more than likely his championship hopes gone. Well, thrilling racing here from Donington Park in the 310R Championship. We'll be back tomorrow with more racing from the Toyo Tyres 7 Race Series.